Hey everybody, this is a fast-paced guide for the Blue Mage Spellbook on where to find spells and how to use them with any combos. This is page 3. So the first spell on page 3 is the Ram's Voice. This is a ground AoE around your feet which does damage, and if the enemies are susceptible to it, will put them under deep freeze status. You'll see this spell used by a lot of people while you're doing dungeons, because it's the opening for the vibe check combo. You learn this spell, just like the next one, from Cutter's Cry on the Chimera on the last boss, when the eyes glow blue. When the Chimera in Cutter's Cry's eyes glow violet, you will learn Dragon's Voice. This is an AoE paralyze attack with a 200 potency that adds paralysis onto enemies nearby. The potency is increased to 400 with deep freeze status. Missile is a brilliant spell when it works. It's always on my hotbars. What it does, if a monster is susceptible to Missile, it will drop its health to 50%. It's not a 100% chance of hitting. If it says that it's missed, it means it can be Missile, just keep trying. But if it says that it's fully resisted, it means it can't be. You'll learn this from Enkidu in the Battle of the Big Keep, just after you've been turned into a chicken. "1,000 Needles" is a spell that can be learned from Southern Thanalan, from the Sabatenda Baelors, level 26, just outside Little Alamigo. What it does is it does 1,000 damage flat out to any enemies around you. So if you're doing one at a time, it'll do 1,000 damage. If you've got 2 enemies, it'll do 500 to each of them. It's a good spell for early on leveling. Inkjet is learned from Sastasha hard mode, and it's the Kraken last boss. It does a little bit of damage, but it's mainly it causes a blind. It's used in one of the Mass Carnival stages to avoid a gaze attack. Next you have Fire Angon, which is the fire spell with 200 potency with 50% reduction for other monsters. You learn it from Wanderer's Palace hard mode, first boss. Fire Angon is actually used pretty early on in the fight. People confuse it with Blazing Angon because it doesn't have a cast bar. When you've cleared 10 stages of the Mass Carnival, you'll be able to get this totem from Moon Flute. It's a key spell for DPS as it increases damage output by 50% for 15 seconds, meaning you can spam as many high potency spells as possible. After this, you'll have 15 seconds where you're unable to use any actions or abilities. Moon Flute really is a DPS's way to get the most damage output very quickly. Next we have Tail Screw, which only has a 10% accuracy, but what it does is it reduces the target's health to a single digit. It can be a bit of a pain to learn in Sastasha Hard, it's the first boss, because it puts a slime debuff on you, so you could be one-shotted basically. Again, like Missile, if it says miss, then it can be done. If it says that's fully resisted, it means it can't. And number 41 is Mind Blast, which is another job quest. So it's 100% learning, so just go and get it from Tamtara Deepcroft. It's an AoE ability that puts paralysis on monsters. So number 42 is Doom. Doom, just like Tail Screw and Missile, if it says miss, then it can be done. If it says that it's fully resisted, it can't be done. You get this from a totem for clearing 20 Mass Carnival stages. At number 43 we have Perculiar Light. It's a spell that shares a timer with Off Guard. Off Guard lowers defense of monsters. This one lowers their magical defense. I always learn this from the Lentic Mud Puppy just outside Mordona. And now we get into our first primal spell, Feather Rain from Garuda. This you have to get from Garuda Extreme. It shares a recast timer with Eruption. And what it does a wind burn damage. So wind burn is a damage over time for a small potency for 6 seconds. The next primal spell is Eruption that shares the cast with the last one, Feather Rain. And you can actually solo this from the level 20 Ball of Embers duty. Depending on what spells you've got, you can solo this pretty simply, to be honest. It does 300 damage to all enemies. So next up we have Titan's Mountain Buster, which you get from the Naval Hard or Extreme mode. It shares a recast timer with Shock Strike and does a 400 potency cone attack with a 50% reduction for others. Next up is Shock Strike. It shares a recast timer with Mountain Buster, the previous spell. You can get this from the Striking Tree Hard or Extreme. It's recommended you get it from Hard mode. You can get it from Eden if you really wanted to do that way. Like Mountain Buster, it's a 400% potency with 50% reduction for others. Finally, for page 3, we have Glass Dance, which can only be acquired from Shiva's Extreme version. You have to wait for the last phase and when she pulls out a bow and arrow in order to see this. It shares a cast time with Veil of the Whirl, which is from Leviathan, and it does a wide arc attack of 350 potency with a 50% reduction for others. I will just add that doing primals in trials unsynchronized is a ridiculously low % chance. It is better to do these things synced. And that brings us to the end of page 3. Let's turn the page and start page 4.